when do you have time to read and when do you have time to write? Because pursuing a hobby is very difficult is what students think.
It is. It's very difficult. I have to admit my reading has plummeted because I used to do much of my reading on flights. Maybe I would squeeze in a bit of reading at home, but most of my time I have a 4.5-hour flight every week to Thiruvananthapuram and 4.5-5 hours back, and therefore I had plenty of time to read on flights. But thanks to COVID, I'm no longer a frequent traveler. In fact, I'm not a traveler at all. And as a result, that opportunity has gone down the tubes. And the other thing you asked is, when do I find time to write? Usually I have to confess at night. And I confess that without any great pleasure because I'm actually temperamentally a morning person. But I've had to change because in political life and public life, whether in the UN, whether as a minister, whether even just as a constituency member of parliament, I find that my days not only are filled with political and parliamentary demands, but that's also where my duty lies. These people have voted and put me into office. I owe them my accountability and I have a sense of responsibility to them. So it's only at about 11 o'clock at night when your constituents and your political party and your political colleagues usually stop bothering you. That's when I'm in I can sit down for a couple of hours to my writing work. The problem is increasingly the pending emails and messages and WhatsApps and work-related writing tends to eclipse the personal writing, the creative writing. So in fact, it's still the time I write, but it may not be the best time to produce the most creative work. So all I'll say to kids is, I am not sure that I am necessarily the best example for you. I can tell you somewhat ruefully that there was a review of one of my books in the Washington Post, where the reviewer said if only this chap would give up his day job, in those days I was at the United Nations, what a fine writer he would be, which I thought was a backhanded compliment because it meant that I wasn't writing as well as the author thought I could, as the reviewer thought I could. And the honest truth, frankly, is that sometimes you do need to give yourself a total immersion into one project, and I never can. I cannot spend an entire day, let alone an entire month, on just one book project. If I did that, I'm sure I could write a book, but at the same time, I probably would lose out on the responsibilities that are as important in terms of my work. So my advice to kids is follow your bliss, find out what you're good at and do that wholeheartedly. And when it comes to anything else that you want to do it only in your spare time. When you try and do two things at the same time, it can, except for a very small fraction of people, it can be both wearying and also something which could undermine each activity. That is, that you might end up, unfortunately, in a situation where you don't do justice to either one. So please, Steve, if you can find out what you really want to wake up in the morning looking forward to doing, and do that best, and let everything else just come as a avocation rather than a vocation. Juggling two vocations, as I've been doing, is not always a very easy or pleasant thing to do.